Welcome back, guys. This is part two of a two-part series, so let's get cracking. Okay, I just opened the book back up here, and I don't remember where it was, but this is just going to have to do. So we're at bromoxynil and 2,4-D ester. So like I said, you're looking at your groups. Your 2,4-D is your group 4, and your bromoxynil is group 6. It's also really good to know, obviously, what chemicals do what, but how potent the chemicals are, like how much smackdown those chemicals are going to have. So for example, bromoxynil is super gentle to your crop, okay? 2,4-D, depending, if it could be MCPA, could be 2,4-D amine, could be 2,4-D ester, you know, there's a bunch of different options, but this is ester. So ester 700 is the most potent of the 2,4-D. So depending on how many ounces that they're actually putting in here, because there's active ounces, but you know, typically this is going to lay a little bit more smackdown. Bromoxynil, super easy. So we got our trade names down here. So it's the old Bayer Thumper. Oh yeah, I remember the old Bayer Thumper. Would be dynamite on, say, your buckwheats. This would not be something you would want to use on Russian thistle and kochia, right? This is not going to do a good job on that. But you can go down here. It talks about the formulation of it. Talks about the container sizes. You can get in 10 liter, 100 liter, 115, 120, and 500 liters. Talks about your crop staging. It's a very gentle crop, okay? Or very gentle crop. Very gentle on your crop. You can use it on spring wheat, including durum. You can use it on barley, and at the 4-leaf to flag. So typically when they say you can go up to flag, you already know it's super gentle on the crop because there's not a lot of chemicals you can take up to flag leaf. Typically it's between 2 and 6 leaf, okay? And the reason why they're probably not starting out at 2 leaf is just due to the ester 700. So but going back to our staging, because I did mention a lot about staging, we talk about staging, and staging is very important, which is the reason why if you get behind in the rain or something during the middle of crop spraying, you can really set yourself back. So you might actually have to do a calculation, you know, am I going to lose more to the weeds or am I going to lose more to smacking my crop silly? So or maybe you planned on going out there with you know, the Floxpure, the 2,4-D, and the Flazolam. You know, you planned on hitting it pretty hard, and then you got a bunch of rain, and now you're pushing outside your stage. So now you're going to have to go into with a little more gentle chemical to take it up to a later stage, which obviously is not going to be super strong on those weeds. But suppression of weeds when it comes to growing a crop is still better than leaving the weeds completely unattended. Don't get me going on suppression of weeds because that's how you gain resistance. But anyways, going on, these are the weeds that are controlled. Okay, these are the weeds that are controlled between 1 to 4 leaf, which means these weeds are a little bit harder to kill, so they want to get them between 1 and 4. These ones, buckwheat, obviously very easy to kill, so you can go up to a bigger stage on that one. And then obviously weeds controlled from 1 to 12. Max right here. It sounds good. Woohoo! 12 leaf. Awesome. Max 2 inches tall, you guys. 2 inches tall. Yeah, you're not touching those. Oh, man. So not only do you got to worry about your crop staging, but you also got to worry about the weed staging. All very important. Which is one of the reasons why we do a burn-off in the spring. So that way you're wiping the slate clean. You want the crop to come up at the same time you want the weeds to come up. Actually, you want the weeds to come up first. Spray them. Kill that flush, because there's always multiple flushes that come up. So you want to kill the first or second flush if you can. And then you want the slate clean, so that way the next flush of weeds are going to be coming with your crop. So that way your weeds aren't staging out before your crop is at the minimum stage before you can actually apply your herbicides, right? So that's kind of the gist of it. There's a lot in this book. If you could memorize it, you'd be doing well. I used to, but I'm kind of slipping now. To further on, so I'm not boring you guys, you got your, talks about water volume, what's required, whether it can be sprayed with a plane or not. This stuff can be, what nozzles to use, what pressure to run, so on and so forth. And it talks about tank mixes. Typically, every company will say that you can tank mix with their chemical, of course. And then over here, okay, you can't tank mix with insecticides, fungicides, or fertilizers. A little bit added information. It goes on to restrictions. Typically, they tell you no rain fast. Rain fast means you can't take a rain within X amount of hours. This stuff says nothing's really specified on label. Required interval maybe up to 8 hours. They don't really know. They're just covering their butts saying, yeah, hopefully don't get a rain for 8 hours. If you get a rain within that 8 hours, they're not going to cover you. Obviously, they're not going to cover you anyway, let's be honest. And your control will significantly be reduced. No reentry, blah, 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 aerial, blah, 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 and recropping restrictions. Now, there we go. Recropping restriction interval. Let's find Odyssey. Here we go. I guess the whole reason why we finally got here. Sorry about that. But anyway, it's the Immies. Okay? Group 2. These guys right here. Let's find, see right here, they're registered for Clearfield lentils. Now, anytime you see a little triangle like that, that means there's always something. So you look down here, you see the double little triangle, Odyssey NXT, and Duet only, for whatever reason. And then it tells you over here that the lentils cannot be sprayed between or before 1 node and above 9 node, which they weren't, so that's fine. And these are the weeds that it will get, and they always, it looks better than what it really is, okay? Because where does it say? It should say, basically, get your grasses at best. Only they got so many little things on here, little stars. Basically, they just cover their butt saying, yeah, it's suppression only. It's the 3 stars, suppression only. Suppression, suppression, suppression. So if you see a star, it's just going to be suppression. Oh, and then you got Russian thistle over here. It's got a little cross, N and a Q. Where's a little cross? Here's a cross, suppression only. And N and a Q, not including. Okay, that does not. It's not applicable to us. Once you get through the weeds, which here, this is the weed that it will get. It gets red boy, I can't even talk today. Red root pigweed. It will get that. No, it won't do buck. And some stinkweed. It will get stinkweed, which are your easiest weeds you can kill. So it will get those 2 weeds out of everything. So then it tells you, yeah, it can't be applied more than once. Makes sense. Obviously, could you imagine the carryover? And then it tells you your water volume, blah, 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 blah. And then it tells you how it works. Yes, sir-ree. And then it tells you effective growing conditions. Yeah, okay, it's got to be a certain temperature. Yeah, we know that. And then it can be tank mixed with their chemical. Of course, it can be. Well, Mike, if it only gets 2 weeds, then why the heck did you even use it in the first place? That's a really good question. You know, and realistically, I'm not going to use it again. But it does have a little bit of suppression on the Russian thistle and a little bit of suppression on the buckwheat. That's about it, though. We'll flip to the back. There's a whole other half page. That's scary. Yes, there is. Okay, it talks about rain fast. Yes, it does. Don't enter. Blah, 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 blah. Recropping right there. Recropping. Here we go. Let's see if you guys see this. Recropping. There's a lot of stuff on recropping, so let's just take this one step at a time. So, recropping. Let's see if I can zoom in on this. There we go. You guys can see that? Okay, I'm going to try to hold as steady as I possibly can. So, 2 little stars. What does that mean? Not listed for recrop option. Okay, that's not applicable to us. So we could grow canary seed. We can grow oats, barley. Okay, well, we don't grow corn. Well, we're not going to put chickpeas on it. There's our spring wheat. That's a great option. Oh, would you look at that? It says we can grow durum. Here we go, here we go, here we go, here we go, here we go. Here's the note. Here's the note that everyone's saying behind. The breakdown of the Immies may be slowed or delayed by environmental conditions such as a drought, which is what we had. That makes sense. Excessive cold, okay, well, we didn't have that. And or acidic soils, pH less than 6.5. Actually, we're higher than that, so that's not a problem. Resulting in increased risk injury of rotational crops. The most tolerant crops are Clearfield, canola, legumes. Yeah, that makes sense. They're like, yeah, why don't you just grow our Clearfield wheat? That'd be really handy. Contact the manufacturer for additional information, which is what Mike did. Don't worry, Mike did that. Mike did that back during the growing season. Hey, is this going to be okay? Yes, Mike, it'll be okay. You just spend the money. We'll protect you, buddy. Oh, yeah, okay, we're moving on. Oh, Mike, it's a drought. Obviously, you can't expect them to cover you in a drought. It says drought at a delay, and I wouldn't have. In fact, I wouldn't even have sprayed it if it wasn't for their confirmation. No, keep in mind, when we were spraying the Immies last year, we weren't in drought conditions as of yet, which is probably the reason why BASF was telling you, yeah, you can use it, everything's looking good, everything's looking fine, and so we did, and then they said, yeah, we'll stand behind you, which they didn't, and then all of a sudden it started getting dry, and then they're like, oh boy, it's starting to get dry, but it's too late, right? We already sprayed the Immies, they're already out, they're gone, and then they're like, oh yeah, now it's dry. But it wasn't dry when you spray. But it doesn't matter. We're out now. It just talks about your buffer zones and sprayer clean out and so on and so forth. So that's the book, you guys. You know, maybe you're not sure exactly. Well, Mike, I'm not 100% sure what chemicals are available to me. And to be honest, I'm not 100% sure what weeds that I have growing out there. And you know what? That's okay. that's perfectly fine. You know, you could probably talk to your local agronomist, maybe your local retail. They could walk you through. They would know the area of what problematic weeds you might have, so on and so forth. Or maybe you're like Mike, moved into a totally different area and was like, holy crap, what the heck is this weed? And they're like, oh, that's like a horsetail or a horse something. And I'm like, what the heck is that? We don't have that in the South, you know. And or, you know, maybe I just realized what common tansy is. I'm like, what the heck is this weed, man? I got to use a lot of crap for this stuff. But anyways, whatever it is, we're always learning. And we should never be afraid to ask questions, ever. Because if you're not continually learning, then you're dead, okay? In my mind, you're dead if you're not learning. So we're always learning, and we're always going to learn, hopefully. So anyway, this book, it's kind of got this broke down. So you can, let me zoom in on this just a little bit. Still zooming in, there we go. So, weed control in spring wheat, durum, or winter. So, on this side of the column, it's got all your chemicals, 2,4-D. You got all these different chemicals, dicamba, that you can, for Lazlan, that you can put on. And then when you rotate it this way, it has all the weeds. Okay? I do believe this is a 2-pager. Yeah, it is. It's a 2-pager. So it's got quite a few chemicals, quite a few weeds, because it's wheat and durum. Then it tells you whether it's controlled, suppression, top growth. So you can actually go through this and figure out what chemical might be best suited for you, because you would probably have a pretty good idea, or your local retailer or agronomist could probably tell you that, oh, maybe cleavers is more of your problem, but you do have some cow cockle, or, you know, maybe you got a little bit of pigweed, or, you know, stinkweed and kochia is still over here. You know, chances are you're not going to have everything, but, you know, you're going to have some problem weeds and some less problematic weeds. So then you're going to go through here and you're going to try and see how you can knock out the most problematic weeds, and still kind of get some control on your minor weeds. Make sense? Makes sense. So you can do that for all the different crops. It's got field peas, it's got soybeans and flax and so on and so forth in here. And then over here, there's special weed problems. Now, we all know Mike is quite special. We all know that. That's not a surprise to anybody. But right here, it's common tansy. Realize that I do have some of this up north. And you got to use a lot of Roundup, like 2 to 3 liters of Roundup you got to put on this stuff. Or you could put the Escort, you put some Reclaim, Restore, whatever it might be. So if you do have some problematic weeds, it will tell you how to deal with just those problematic weeds, like gumweed. Never even heard of gumweed, okay? Obviously, foxtail barley, that's pretty common. Toad flax. I used to be a weed inspector, actually, for RM. Our RM, rural municipality. Holy crap, Mike, I'm really struggling speaking here. I'm actually starting to get hoarse and lose my voice, so that's not a good sign. But anyways, so, and I did custom spraying for quite a few years prior to farming as well, or during farming, I should say. So that also helped me gain a little bit of my chemical knowledge. But anyways, yeah, and then we got soil residues. And we can go through and which one has recropping restrictions. So there's a whole pile of stuff, okay? We barely even touched the iceberg of this puppy. Seriously. So if you guys enjoyed this sort of thing, like we didn't even talk about fungicides, we didn't talk about seed treatment, we didn't talk about insecticides, and there is different groups in fungicide that you have to be careful, like group 11. Group 11 in your fungicide is the most susceptible to resistance, just like group 1 and 2 is in your herbicide. So there's all these different things that we could touch on and we could talk about, but I don't want to bore you. So if you enjoy this sort of thing, then you should probably let me know. Then maybe we can continue and we can dig into it a little bit deeper. Maybe we can go into some other aspects of it. But this was kind of a very rough and cut, kind of a general idea of it. So anyways, that's it. This video is probably far too long, so you guys have yourself a good one. And excuse me, I got to drink some water. Talk to you guys later. Adios.